decade has consistently shown that the single most significant factor in student success that education systems can influence is the quality of the teacher. Looking back at our own educational experiences, I think we all know this rings to be true. Who doesn't remember their great teacher? Mine was Mrs. Robinson, who inspired us and who made a huge difference in our lives. So if we all agree that, as Michael Barber says in the famous McKinsey report, the quality of a country's education system cannot exceed the quality of its teachers. The topic this esteemed panel is here to discuss about how we train and develop our teachers to continually improve the quality of this teaching. I'd like to start off this with discussing with Honorable Assistant Minister of Education and Skills from Botswana. It is clearly important to ensure that teachers have a minimal level of qualification and have the oversight of a body such as Teaching Council to ensure teaching standards and professionalism. What plans do you have in the coming years for oversight and to make sure that Botswana teachers have reached this minimum standard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please allow me to thank the Ugandan government for launching this magnificent summit. My sincere thanks in this regard should go to the Honorable Minister of Education for the warm welcome that she accorded us. We owe you more thanks, Madam. Regarding the invitation that you extended to us, that we may, if we so wish, stay here until Christmas, we will give it a thought, ma'am. In terms of the question, Madam Chair, well, currently, in Botswana, the minimum qualification for primary school teachers is at diploma level, whilst for those at secondary, requirement is a degree certificate. There are still, however, some teachers at primary school level operating with a primary teacher certificate, and those at secondary schools with a diploma qualification. Currently, my government, through the Minister of Education and Skills Development, is engaged in a program with EU to upgrade all primary school teachers, that is PTC certificate holders, to diploma level. A sizable number have since been trained. Although such is at times frustrated by some challenges, because those who have exceeded the age of 45 are reluctant to go for further training. That is the main obstacle. And in fact, we as a government and the public at large do realize that there is no value for money. In Botswana, we have a strategic plan commonly known as ETSSP. The establishment of the Teaching Council is one of those requirements that have actually been assigned to this strategic plan. And we do have the mechanism in place to have an Act of Parliament which will establish the Botswana Teaching Council. And it is this council which will deal with the accreditation of teachers and the like.
Very good.
I thank you.
Very good. Now, Botswana spends 20% of its national budget on education. That's one of the highest in Africa. Would you say the impact of this investment matches its scale, or does more need to be done to provide a broader choice of skilled teaching professionals to achieve the results that you're hoping for?
That is very true, Madam Chair. we do spend about 20% of the national budget is spent on education. Basically, the output might not or does not match the level of investment because of a number of factors.
Okay.
Namely, initially, the government took interest in providing access to education for all.
Mm-hmm.
And a sizable amount of the ministerial budget, that is the Minister of Education and Skills Development, was actually spent on addressing the issue of access.
Mm.
Botswana has a challenge of rural remote settlements, which are not easy to reach, and a lot of the ministerial budget, of the country's budget, was spent on efforts and initiatives to make sure that access is promoted throughout the country. Actually, not much of the budget went into the classroom. A huge number of this recurrent budget went to tertiary education financing.
I see.
That is in the form of subventions to universities and sponsorship to scholars, both internally and abroad.
All right.
That is where the bulk of the money went to. ETSSP, however, is concerned with rationalizing the resources, looking at its efficiencies and inefficiencies to move and redistribute the budget. And this was done through benchmarking with interested best practices. And because of the new funding model, budget is done with the perspective of value for money.
Thank you very much. Now, the Kenyan government is implementing a major push to integrate digital technology into primaries called the Digital Literacy Program. I'd like to ask Honorable Esther, Minister of Education and ICT in the Kiambu County, to outline the training and the development you are putting into place to ensure that Kenya's teachers are ready to embrace digital learning in schools.
Thank you, our moderator. And just like my colleagues, I would like to take this opportunity to thank AfricanBrains for the organization. This is the second time I'm attending, and I like the way we have been sharing. Then I would also like to thank the Ugandan government through the Minister for Education. I can see we've really had a very nice time. Yesterday we had a fantastic dinner, cultural dinner and entertainment. And we're told that that is innovation in Uganda, and we actually believe this is great innovation. Then going to the question about digital literacy program in Kenya, it is true. We have seen, even in the past week, our president received the award for the country that is really progressing a lot in ICT, and we are not leaving our primary children behind because we know foundation is the most important. Now, for us to make sure this program is successful, because we all want it to succeed, the government has involved 3 ministries to ensure that we move on. That is the Ministry of Energy, ICT, and Education. And each ministry is playing its own role to make sure that we succeed in this program. The Ministry of Energy, because we are talking about quality education, and also in our SDPs, the Sustainable Development Goals, we are looking at equity. So we have to ensure that the schools in the rural areas are also having electricity, and that is the work of the Ministry of Energy, which has moved with speed. And as we are talking, most of our rural schools now are connected with electricity. We also have the Ministry of ICT, which is also moving very fast to ensure that the schools are connected. They are laying the fiber optic cable, and we are in the second phase, and we are optimistic. By the end of the year, they will have covered nearly the whole country. Then come to Ministry of Education. It is involved in the training of the teachers to ensure, because like we have said, for the quality education, you must, the quality of the teachers must exceed that quality of education. So we have started the training of the teachers, Kenya is having the devolved system of government, and that is why you had the minister in one of the county governments. And nowadays it's very easy to manage education because we have smaller units of government. So within these county governments, they have organized the training within them. So like what we have done, we had yesterday one of our presenters from Kenya talk about the 22,000 schools, primary schools, and those are only public schools, which we are making sure that the teachers are trained so that when we bring the laptop project, they will not have a problem in making sure that our learners get quality education through the integration of ICT. So we have picked 3 teachers from each of these 22,000 schools in the country, and they have been undergoing rigorous training. And through this rigorous training, which has had trainers of trainers who are trained within the national government, then they were deployed to the counties, and they're the ones who are training our teachers. Then, of course, we expect those teachers to also become trainers of trainers within their schools. Then I would also like to say, Kenya, we have very many primary schools, and these are only the public schools. Our private sector doesn't like being left behind. So what they have done in the various counties, they have gone and seen the directors of education to ensure that the private schools are included in the program. But because the government has only financed the public schools, the private sectors have financed themselves, and they have also brought their teachers to be included in this training program because they are the greatest provider of primary schools in some of our county governments. So that is one of the things we've done, and we are sure that this is going to equip our teachers with the necessary knowledge and skills so that when we implement the program, they will not have many issues. But like we always say, it is not easy to get it the first time. So we are still looking for partners to work on this training because, like we have said, these are only 3 teachers in one school. And when the program grows, every teacher will need to be trained. So we are looking forward to great partnership to ensure that the training we've already set is going to be sustainable.
Thank you. Now, in 2014, Kenya hired a lot of primary teachers, teacher training colleges, and trainees. But according to the UN, with a growing population, more teachers are needed in Kenya to reduce the class size from which is 35 to 1. Can you outline what you're doing in your district to reduce this ratio and increase teacher recruitment?
Thank you. I'm glad we've recognized the fact that Kenya is doing quite well in terms of the teacher ratio, because 35 to 1 is still quite good and reasonable, but we are looking for a reduction because, as we have said, when we talk about learner-centered, we need a smaller teacher-to-student ratio, and we are working on that. So what I would say is that we have a database, our Teacher Service Commission, that is the body involved in hiring of the teachers. So they have a database. Every county, we have 47 county governments in Kenya. They have a database. They know which schools have a shortage of teachers, which schools are overstaffed, and they're working on that because even as we talk about this ratio, 35 to 1, not every school has this one. This is the average. So what we've done, there is a system which has been put in place by the Teacher Service Commission of deploying the teachers. For example, those who retire and the attrition also. So we have that database, and like last year, we had vacancies of 5,000 teachers, and what happens, they are not taken to every school in the country. So we look at those areas, the marginalized areas where most of our teachers don't want to go, and that is where we are deploying some of them to make sure that we reduce the numbers. Then we also talk about these teachers. We know that literacy level in Kenya is very, very high. Teachers are even engaging, they're going to private training teacher colleges, and we have very highly qualified teachers. So what we've done, the private sector has absorbed most of our teachers to reduce the unemployment rate. But we find Kenyan teachers are among the highest paid, as you have been hearing, in Africa. I think we are the 3rd best paying teachers. So you find the private sectors, which are not international, they are not able to compete with the government. So every teacher wants to be employed by the government. So anytime there's a vacancy, there are very, very many teachers. Like in my county, this year we are only given 20 vacancies for new teachers, and the people who had applied were over 3,000. So you can imagine 3,000 and we only have 20 slots. So the competition is very high because everybody wants to be employed by the government, but we are happy that most of our countries in Africa have absorbed most of our teachers. I know like Botswana, Zimbabwe, even Zambia, Malawi, we have many of our very highly qualified teachers in Kenya going there. The biggest problem we have in terms of teachers is where we have the pre-primary. In pre-primary, we don't have teachers employed by the government, and this is a function that has been taken by the county governments. So what we are doing, we are trying to absorb teachers, and again, this is an area where pre-primary teachers have degrees, diplomas, and even masters, but they're not employed by the government. So this is when we are trying to absorb them in so that we can have even the pre-primary children handled by qualified teachers. Like in my county, when we advertised for pre-primary teachers, we had over 5,000 highly qualified pre-primary teachers apply, but we only needed 1,000, and other counties are also absorbing them. So that is an area we know we are working on, and we know that we are going to absorb more. It is only that the recurrent expenditure in the Ministry of Education is very high, because you hear we are among the best employers in terms of paying, and that is why we may not reduce that very soon.
Thank you very much for your candid. Thank you very much. Dr. Jane Egau, you are the Ugandan Commissioner for Instruction and Tutor Education, where there have been calls for regular appraisals of teachers in a bid to improve the standard of education. Can you explain the appraisal system in Uganda and what plans you're putting into place to have regular appraisals as part of ongoing teacher development?
Thank you very much, Chair. While my previous colleagues have thanked the government of Uganda, I will not thank myself because I am a beneficiary of the thank yous. Instead, permit me, Chair, to join the Minister in welcoming you all to Uganda and also thanking you so much for the very, very constructive discussions that have gone on. I will tell you on behalf of my colleagues, the delegates from this country, we have really benefited from your presence, and we are very grateful. I want to thank AfricanBrains, again, in addition to the minister's thank you. But more importantly, I want to appreciate the fact that this particular session was brought at this time to discuss the issue of the teacher, a subject very close to my heart, and really very important, because for me, it was very nice that it was brought at the end after we've had all these. And the manager of AfricanBrains said it very well. We can say all that, we can do all that, but if we don't skill the teacher to skill the others, then we'll put everything to waste. So I thank you all for coming. Getting back to the question that you have asked, the issue of appraisal in this country, first of all, for all public servants, it's national. Okay. We have a national appraisal system. It is managed by the Public Service Act. It is under the Ministry of Public Service. However, we at the Ministry of Education and Sport support the process. We support the process of appraisal of the teachers and all those that are in the Ministry of Education and Sports. The system is such that at the beginning of the appraisal period, all civil servants, all public servants write performance plans. And it's against those performance plans that we are appraised at the end of the appraisal period. When I'm talking about public servants, I'm including the teachers. So that is the system that we use. To us in teacher education, I think, well, the appraisal process is such that you do it either quarterly, half yearly, or yearly. at the end of the year, then you submit to the authorities the annual appraisal report. To us in teacher education, that is not enough. Because, ladies and gentlemen, teaching is a process. And every little process that you go through leads to another and another, and eventually makes a whole. Now, when you leave a teacher to teach for a period of 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year before you appraise, you don't know what can happen in between there. We are dealing with a very delicate group of people. We are dealing with people we are modeling. So every step in the process, if we divert from what should be, it means we are destroying the future of the young generation. And therefore, the issue of appraisal to us should be a continuous process. In teacher education, we are saying that at every stage, almost every day, the teacher should actually be appraised. And that is why we make lesson plans, we make schemes of work, and we keep following. What we are now doing in teacher education is to say the heads of these institutions, even though they have undergone teacher training programs, they should also be trained in what we call pedagogical leadership. That means that they should be able to follow the process of growth, the process of delivery from the very beginning up to the end. Most head teachers sit in offices and they don't know what is happening in the classrooms. But we are saying a teacher educator cannot do that, because you are modeling others to model the lives of others, and therefore should be very close to what they are doing so that they are role models that are proper role models. So we have a program that we call a certificate in teacher education proficiency. That program, we have given it out to all the teacher educators so that they are able to follow up every step of their teaching process, because they are teaching teachers. So they should be able to instill that same spirit into the other teachers. As government, we want to actually institutionalize this performance appraisal mechanism, so that at every stage, even the students themselves, because these are student teachers, they're also going out there, they should be able to also appraise one another, appraise each other, and then see what others are doing, and it goes on. We are teaching and we are training these people to be reflective practitioners. For everything that you do, reflect on what you have done and see the effect of what you have done on the student. And somebody else should be monitoring what you are doing. So throughout the training process, we are saying appraisal should be part and parcel of the teacher training process. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Uganda has a major program of training in place for some years now. The Secondary Science and Mathematics Teachers, the SESMAT program. Can you tell us about this, how this works and the results so far, and how you see this program developing in the future?
The Teachers of Science and Mathematics program is an in-service program. An excellent program, if I can summarize it in the beginning. It came into force driven by a need to improve the quality of science teachers in the country. Okay. In the earlier years, in the 2000s, we had very, very poor performance in the two subjects. I mean, in the science and mathematics subjects. And then also we had very few students even joining the science and mathematics field. We saw a decline, and yet we were generally talking about technology improvement. We are talking about becoming a middle-income country very soon, and we want to be technology-driven. We did not have the scientists to do that. As government, a policy was put in place to have all students in secondary schools at all level take sciences. So in other words, we had a policy on compulsory science for everybody. Challenges came with it, of course. You needed the equipment, you needed the teachers, you needed the infrastructure. In the strategic plan, education sector strategic plan of that period, all these were put in place, and indeed over the years, a lot has been done in terms of putting infrastructure and all that and all that. But then a major problem came, the teacher. Though we had the infrastructure and we had the equipment, the teacher needed to be retooled in order to be able to use the equipment and implement an improvement in the program. So this is how the SESMAT, we call it SESMAT, the SESMAT program was born. It has done a lot. What happens, the structure is such that we have one center, which is the national center, where we have national trainers that were trained from with the support from JICA, and they came back and settled at the national center. Then we have 28 centers spread all over the country. These 28 centers are attached to the rest of the other secondary schools in the country. So in other words, the Settlement program is affecting the whole country. It is being implemented countrywide. So they normally come during holidays. It is an in-service program. Yeah. And when the teachers go back to the schools, they are followed by the national trainers and they are given continuous support. So throughout the years since 2005, we've been implementing this program, and I think it has done a commendable work. When it was first introduced, it had maybe two or three main things to address. One, the teaching had to be hands-on, and they added minds-on. Your mind on it, your hands on it. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of practical aspect in teaching brought into the program. Then the other one was interest, sensitization, because as I said earlier, we were lacking people. We are now lacking students to come into the program. So a lot of sensitization was done to make sure that students are admitted into the program. And of course, the other one is the availability of equipment and the infrastructure to teach. And all these have been put in place. I want to assure you the achievements have been great. One, at the moment, there is a lot of interest in science. In fact, there is now a struggle for students to join the sciences. I think they're beginning to see that, the future of science. And two, the teaching, if you go and look at it, it is now so practical, and this probably explains why we now have more students interested in the science. So it has been a great program, and it's one that we are proud of.
Thank you very much. Now, Honorable Chief Education Officer of Lesotho, where there's been significant recent progress in terms of access and high literacy rates. With all teachers coming under the ministry in terms of employment, can you outline how Lesotho is planning to implement compulsory change to ensure further improvements into the standard of teaching and teacher training?
Okay, thank you. Let me also start by thanking the government of Uganda through the Minister of Education in Uganda, and also convey sincere apologies for my minister from Lesotho, Dr. Mahadi Pamotsi, who is the Minister of Education and Training, but was not able to make it here due to some pressing issues at home. I think that question, I should start by saying, in Lesotho, we have started to have some physical infrastructure development, which is not only limited to building classrooms and also recreational facilities like sporting grounds, entertainment halls, and theaters. And there was a target that the ministry introduced in the strategic plan of 2005 to 2015 of pupil-teacher ratio. Our teacher-pupil ratio was 1 to 51, and lately it was reduced to 1 to 40. But currently, the average pupil-teacher ratio standards are at 1 to 43. However, at individual school setup, this is not the situation, because you'll find that one teacher is looking out for 80 or more students. I'm sorry about that. The special reference will also drawn from the Education Act number 3 of 2010. It is through quality control structures that do not discriminate in terms of school ownership. All teachers are paid by the government, and the Act also talks about the advisory council, which is the council that advises the minister in all the materials that go into the classroom, be it textbooks or the assessment quality. And there is also what we call the teaching council, which the Act talks about it. The teaching council is the council that advises the teacher on matters related to teaching profession. And that is also across the board. It doesn't discriminate teachers from their proprietorship. There's also the establishment of the Teaching Service Commission, whose function is to recruit teachers, to promote, to demote, and transfer teachers, or even terminate the services contracts of teachers, if need be. The Act also is binding every school to develop and recognize its own school board, which recommends employment and retrenchment of teachers to TSC. There is also a school inspection, which was decentralized in 2010, and the inspectors inspect all the schools, whether they are public schools or church schools. They inspect, and each inspector is responsible for about 50 schools in a district, because in Lesotho we have about 10 districts. So each district has inspectors. There's also an indiscriminate rollout of continuing professional development for teachers. And we have recently introduced PMS, the Performance Management System, which is known at the government, but we have also introduced it to schools, even though it is not yet implemented. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. In your strategic plan, you aim to reduce the we talked about this already, the pupil-teacher ratio, and to improve performance standards. Can you explain how industry partners can work within the government and the teaching community to help achieve these aims?
Oh, yes. I think part of it has already been
yes,
answered.
you did. Yeah, you did.
I think the industry can assist the ministry by participating in the curriculum development panels at all levels. Whenever there's a need for us to review it, like we did in 2012, we implemented a new curriculum and assessment. We invite all the stakeholders, including the industry. The curriculum that we are implementing now is the integrated curriculum. This curriculum is integrated in such a way that we have, it is drawing knowledge, skills, attitude, and values within and across the subject areas to develop the understanding of new ideas. Unlike the previous curriculum, which was subject-based approach,
Right.
whereby you find that it encouraged rote learning. So in this new curriculum, we are doing away with subjects and have introduced learning areas from grade 1 up to grade 6. That is why we needed the participation of industry in that, because we are now talking of numerical and mathematical, linguistic and literal, personal, social, and spiritual is another learning area.
Yeah.
The fourth one is creativity and entrepreneurial.
Okay.
And the fifth one is scientific and technological.
Okay.
So as the ministry, we thought that when we engage some expertise from the government or from the ministry, that will enable us to be able to teach, to enable us to train our teachers so that they will be able to teach in the classroom. And each and every time that we have those kind of changes, we train teachers. We use a cascade model.
Right.
We have a training of trainers, then the teachers will go and train during rollout. Like we are doing now, we are at grade 5, and next year we'll be piloting grade 6.
Right.
So when we get to class 7, we are going back again to subjects, but they will still be highly integrated.
Okay.
We are going to have mathematics, science, social sciences, life skills, entrepreneurial, and Lesotho.
Right.
And when the student gets to grade 8, then they will be able to, that is where they will start to have 3 exit points. We're going to have 3 exit points for these students. There will be students who are going to follow the artisan route, and artisan route is going to take level 1 and level 2, and then after they will have qualification.
Yeah.
Then they will have another group of TVET route.
Yeah.
The TVET route will also go beyond AS and A levels.
Okay.
At the same time, we have the third route, whereby we're going to have the academics.
All
The academics are those who are following Lesotho General Certificate for Secondary Education, which is equivalent to International General Certification for Secondary Education. So we have made it in such a way that these two, the TVET route and the academic route, are flexible. So that if the child feels now he's not comfortable with the TVET, he can change to the LGCSE.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we wanted to change the mindset of people who are saying TVET is for stupid people, or for slow learners, or for failures.
Yeah.
We have also, in fact, this curriculum demands that we do away with pass and fail.
Yeah.
Our children no more pass,
Yeah.
they don't fail. We only have what we call assessment for learning. And assessment for learning is the assessment that is going to, we are using to develop profiles for students from grade 1 up to grade 7. So that when they go into the next class, we can say the teacher knows that the teacher assesses the child in such a way that what is it that the child knows, what is it that the child can do.
Yeah.
So in such a way, we are not going to have children who are going to repeat. We are not going to have children who are going to fail. We don't even want to say this child has passed.
Fantastic.
Because they are drilled according to their abilities, as this assessment and curriculum are competency based. There is also a need to promote acute exchange programs in areas like mathematics and science, especially in the new curriculum that I've already mentioned. We're also looking for the participation in performance review bodies like governing bodies and functional communities from the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, last but no means least, we'd like to bring in Honorable Deputy Chief Education Specialist of Gauteng. My first question to you is about Gauteng's province policy of investing in digital classrooms. What I'd like to know is, how are you transforming teacher education programs to both redefine the competency of teachers and ensure effective pedagogical use of ICT?
And I would also like to join my colleagues in thanking the Minister of Education in Uganda for the hospitality and the warm welcome that he has given to us and making us feel at home during the period that we stayed here. Thank you, Minister, for that. And would also like to thank Innovative Africa for the event well organized. And in response to your question, I would like to highlight first the point that Gauteng Department believes in investing on its teachers, because if you invest on the teacher and you have a teacher that is highly qualified, skilled, and knowledgeable, that is going to impact positively on the learners that are being taught by the very teacher. Hence, this investment that Gauteng Department is making on the development of teachers and the investment that Gauteng Department of Education is making on ICT integration and development in the classrooms. I would like to indicate that to develop the teachers, the province used different institutions, which are platforms which enable teachers and also give them an opportunity to be trained in those institutions. And the resources that are being used in those institutions are the same resources that we have in the classroom of the future. So this creates confidence in the teacher that when he leaves training or she leaves training and goes back to the classroom, he is confident and can manipulate even the gadgets that are there in the classroom, unlike where you find that now the learner is ahead of him or her. So training, as it's been done by Gauteng Department of Education, it's in a cascading model. And the training that was done, first, the training was done by SMART,
Yeah.
which was contracted to train the first group of trainers who were accredited, and then this group was then expected to train other groups of your subject advisors and your subject facilitators. And those subject advisors and facilitators that were trained were expected then to move down and train your educators. And the first group of people that were trained were from IT and CAT specialists,
Yeah.
and also your e-learning, and also people from teacher development,
Right.
and also people from, did I mention e-learning? It was e-learning, teacher development, and your IT. So those were the groups that were trained. And moving forward, these groups of people then went on to train teachers. And the training was done the same way as for the first group.
Right.
And further, I would like to elaborate on the training as it was done, because first, before the training could be done for the teachers, we had to establish the point at where the teachers are regarding ICT, so that we avoid the training of one size fits all.
Right, yeah.
And even to have training that would be relevant for the people that is meant for, and to create that confidence so that when they leave and go to school,
Yeah.
then they are ready and they can deliver as expected. So the training focused on that group, and it also, the design of the curriculum, the training of the program was addressing curriculum knowledge, IT pedagogy and technologies, set standards and specifications to achieve the intended outcomes. And again, when it came to the training itself, the program was introduced progressively.
Very good, yeah.
And it was introduced step by step, so that the people who are trained are given an opportunity to catch up and even be supported where there are gaps identified. Further, more focus was on technology to enable the teacher in the environment where he would find himself, on the use of pedagogy, lesson creation, and planning.
Yeah.
And further, to now support these educators once they are at school.
Yeah.
The department decided on a model where you find that in the provincial structure, there is a structure which represents your e-learning, your curriculum, your teacher development,
Yeah.
IT, pure IT
Yeah.
and CAD IT. Reasons being, when we move to the province, we should have the same structures so that when these structures are stuck, then the provincial team can assist. And going down in the schools, there were ICT committees which were set in order that they further this idea on in the institutions, and support would also come from the other structure in the district and the structure in the provincial office. And the training was not always top down,
Right.
but it was also bottom up,
Right.
because some of the challenges that were identified at the bottom had to be referred to the top so that the top can come down again and assist. So in a way, our training was integrated. So at the end, there is continuous monitoring and support,
Right.
because this informs what we have achieved and what is happening in class, and what coaching is needed, and the peer support that may be put in place, so that once we have left, the educators at all levels, whether be at district, whether be at school, they can support one another. And also to avail them an opportunity to use the portal and sharing of lessons. And also, educators were given an opportunity to be taught on accessing your virtual platforms, which have content from Vodacom, your Mindset,
Yeah.
your Pearsons, in support of the content that e-learning, which belongs to the department, had loaded for them in the classroom.
Very
So I would like to thank you, and with this question, end up at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lastly, Gauteng's province is placing a lot of emphasis on the need to improve science, technology, engineering, and mathematics teaching. Can you tell us what practices are being put into place for rigorous monitoring and performance evaluation of teachers? And also, what are you doing to ensure greater teacher provision and support the maths and science subjects?
To achieve that, there is an MST strategy
Right?
that has been put in place. And we also have your institution like Saibono, which mainly focuses on science, maths, technology, and your engineering studies to assist and support the educators. So these strategies are being put in place in order that we address those challenges that are identified in that area. And another thing that Gauteng department has done is to conduct diagnostic assessment for educators regarding their knowledge on the subjects that have been mentioned. And also, to further that, the department has supported schools with resources to realize that, which will support them in delivering of those subjects. And there are programs that are structured, programs which are structured to address that and even identify the challenges that are there, where at the end of the day, the subject advisors, e-learning, and the other supporters, when they come in, they know where to support and how to support and what to do, and even the resources to bring along when those support is being done. And also, another thing that we are vigorously doing is a recruitment of learners who have done science and mathematics, and we lure them, or we invite, let me say, we entice them into teaching through the bursaries for Funza Lushaka, and so that when they complete their studies, they can come and join the department and intensify the science and mathematics crew. But with that being said, we have a challenge because most of those learners, once they complete, they are grabbed by industry, and as a result, we end up not even realizing our goal. We keep on going back and going back. That is the challenge, that is the major challenge that we are faced with. And then besides that, there are in-service trainings that are being done at intervals to support all these educators. So I would like to end this one at that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all the panelists, for your very insightful and candid answers to these questions. I was very interested, and I'm sure everyone else was as well. I know everyone's hungry, so we won't be too much longer, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Teachers Media International. We provide sustainable and scalable solutions and accreditation for teachers. We work with education ministries and policymakers to create and deliver exemplary frameworks and training solutions for governments. We provide a range of workshops from early years to secondary school and higher learning. We have accredited courses for exemplary educators, and we call these ambassadors, and we train them to the highest level. We have our online platform that supports all of our face-to-face learning. It also enables lifelong learners who can share best practices. We also see ourselves as practical educational enablers. And what I mean by that, we work as catalysts for funding. We support technology partners to responsibly roll out technology. We support initiatives that support women's equality. And we form networks of partners for delivery. I'd just like to show you, before we head off for lunch, a video of a lot of great best practices that we've taken across Africa. Thank you very much.
You're going to wait for Alan to finish his part and you recite after Alan, okay? Let's go, Alan.
For me, chemistry is cooking. So if I look at this, it feels like I'm in my kitchen. Abby? Yeah? So I have lime, I have cabbages. Okay. Acids and alkaline. If I look at the lime, is it going to be an acid or is it going to be an alkaline? Acid. Okay, how do I know it's an acid? Litmus paper. Okay, so I'll use litmus paper. What other characteristics do we know about acids? We've all tasted lime before, haven't we? Yes. And when you put lime in your mouth, what happens to your face? Squeeze. Why? No, it's not. It's very good. So acids are sour in taste.
واحدة هنا سيكون قد قطع 9 أمتار و67 سنتيمتر. الآن سنحاول معرفة المسافة التي قطع الجمل لطحن 100 كيلوغرام. إذا كل مجموعة وقرروا الأجوبة ديالكم باش تلقاو الأجوبة. إذا مشاركة المجموعة كلها. إذا قطع الجمل مسافة
48.35.
إذا 48 متر و35 سنتيمتر.